I don't want to age. It might happen a little bit, but I will resist it every step of the way, not by working hard, but by using every tool at my disposal. Working hard does not guarantee results even a little bit. What you do is you choose the most effective tool with the most leverage, and then you work hard.
180 years old is going to be for you like 2150, something like that. Is that possible?
I believe that if I choose to live that long, there's no reason I can't do it. It is possible to be healthy, strong, focused, high energy, have a good sex drive, and to be more than 100. I know, because I've seen it. We're at a point where if you're willing to put in the time, you're willing to pay attention, you can completely change what aging looks like. Here's the stuff that works better than picking up rocks and doing basic cardio, and that's what all exercise is today. We're still exercising like it's the dark ages. They said if you want to live forever, just ejaculate once every 30 days. That sounds impossible. I learned how to do it, and it was actually life-changing.
What do you make now, 3 years later, of COVID, vaccines, new information coming out?
Forcing someone to do something against their will is an act of violence. The people who took away your choice are enemies of humanity. They will never get to do that again, because there are plenty of people like you and me who saw what they did, were aware they can't do this again.
And what about an AGI? Is it only a matter of time before that happens? And do you think that's sooner than later?
What makes you think we don't have one now? I think it's highly likely that we do have one. And if you look at game theory and you look at human behavior and just how you would play it, why would you tell people you have it? Working hard is bad for humans when we do it all the time. But if you believe that working hard is what all humans should do and you control an AGI, you will create a world where that's all humans can do. I don't want that world to exist. In fact, I won't allow it to exist.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs, sharing our vulnerability, overcoming our fears, transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Dave Asprey, the serial entrepreneur, author, and world-renowned biohacker. As the founder of Bulletproof 360, you spent the last 10 years making products that focus on enhancing mental and physical performance through nutrition, supplements, and technology. You're best known for creating Bulletproof Coffee, a mix of high-quality coffee, grass-fed butter, and MCT oil. And you've written several books, including bestsellers Game Changers, Headstrong, and The Bulletproof Diet, while your work has been featured in Forbes and the New York Times. Your latest book, Smarter, Not Harder, The Biohacker's Guide to Getting the Body and Mind You Want, reveals how anyone can maximize their well-being with minimal effort. Your goal is to keep as many people as possible, teach them to optimize their health and mental well-being, while on a personal level, your mission is to live to 180 years old. Dave, welcome back to London Real.
Brian, it's so cool to see you again. I've been on London Real enough times to see the evolution from the early days to now, and it's so impressive.
Thank you, Dave. You've been coming on for like 10 years, or
Yeah.
like 10 or more. You came back in the old studio before we had the leather chairs, and you put on that, I think that head EKG monitor, and
Right.
That episode and all those clips went crazy viral. All the stuff on modafinil and all the stuff you were doing, and that was a long time ago. You know, you were going viral, Dave. So yeah, always appreciate sitting
Thanks
down with
for
you.
having me.
We've had so many great conversations, so I'm really looking forward to this.
Me too. Let's do it. How can we help your audience live best today? That's what I'm here for.
First, I find the age thing really curious. As I get older, I'm thinking about it. So 180 years old is going to be for you like 2150, something like that ish.
Oh, it's way beyond that.
Is it? Am I under? Oh,
No,
of course.
2150, not 2050. Yeah, there you go. About 2150. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, is that possible?
Sure.
Do you need to biohack yourself?
Did you want me to? Yes, it is possible.
Do you believe you will live that long, or you could live that long?
I believe that if I choose to live that long and a piano doesn't fall out of the sky or a truck doesn't hit me, there's no reason I can't do it.
Okay, got it. And by following the protocols, I mean, I've heard you say that when you actually test your biological age, it's like 11 years younger than your current age.
Yeah.
So, I mean, through all of your practices, you're already tracking to be much younger than your number says.
I'm 20% younger than my actual age, basically, slightly more than 20%, maybe 25%. And there's a great debate over which aging clock you should use to measure that. But the deal is, I used to weigh 50% more than I weigh now. I have a history of autoimmunity. I had chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and high risk of stroke and heart attack and pre-diabetes and cognitive dysfunction before I was 30. I started out not strong. I'm like the guy at the Olympics who like falls over coming out of the starting block and then gets up and is like running and then catching up. But I did that. So if I can do this, it's probably easier for you. It's probably easier for someone listening to the show right now, because it's unlikely they're as trashed as I was. And it also, I'm fortunate I got to spend a lot of money to do that. But because I've done it, because other people are willing to go to crazy lengths, we're highlighting the way. We're lighting the torch to say, well, here's how you might do it. And the reason I could even do this is I started in my mid-20s running an anti-aging group where 80-year-olds taught me their secrets. So I'm just, passing it on and enhancing it and polishing it and handing it off. And there are now 25-year-old biohackers who have joined the movement that I started. And they are taking this saying, well, what would happen if I just didn't age in the first place? And they're getting profound results. And they're walking around with more energy than all their friends. And they don't age like their friends, because it's easier to do preventative maintenance than it is to go in and repair everything after it breaks because you wore it out.
Yeah, I think the public now is much more in tune with having a conversation that maybe aging isn't a foregone conclusion, much more than maybe 20 years ago or even 10 years ago when we started the show. Probably it's still a long way from being a common thought, but a lot of people now are starting to really say, well, yeah, maybe aging's disease. Maybe aging isn't something that's just a foregone conclusion. And if that's the case, then you might have solved one of the biggest cons on the human psyche, which is you just got to let it go and not try, and all of this crazy stuff, these mindsets. I mean, you mentioned my Instagram videos. I mean, I'm 51 and I'm doing head spins as a break dancer. And,
right.
I bet David 30 years ago, I wouldn't have done that because there would have been so much subliminal messaging that I had to act my age, or old people didn't do that, or I should feel these pains that maybe I wouldn't. But being around ideas like yours, I just think, well, why the hell not? So the mentality of it makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference. And I find there's two groups of people now. There's the forward thinkers who are saying, well, that might be interesting to live way past 100. But still the majority, but the smaller majority says, I wouldn't want to do that. I would be in a wheelchair and diapers, and I wouldn't know my own name, and my skin would be so thin that you could see through me. And there is no evidence that that is the only way to age. That's just what we've seen so far. And those are the same people who said, a week before the first airplane flew, men can never fly, and all this made up nonsense. Same thing with the 4-minute mile. It's impossible. One guy breaks the 4-minute mile, and the next year 4 guys do. And now it's like in high school, people break a 4-minute mile. So what happened? We just became aware it was possible and we started doing it. And that's my job right now. It is possible to be healthy, strong, focused, high energy, have a good sex drive, and to be more than 100. I know, because I've seen it. And those are people who did not have any of the benefits we have today of AI, of the ability to access more information than a king or a president 50 years ago could do. You can get it for free online. And we're at a point where if you're willing to put in the time, you're willing to pay attention, you can completely change what aging looks like. And the new vision that I have for when I'm 180 is that I am at least as strong as I am now, I am way more wise than I am now because I'll have seen even more government tyranny overthrown. And I will actually be in a position to share a lifetime of knowledge with people who are interested. And I see it that way because I'm so lucky that people literally, I had an 88-year-old mentoring me when I was 26. It was so much knowledge and so much wisdom and all of that. I can't imagine what will happen when I'm 150 and I'm working with people in their 20s saying, man, here's the stuff you should have known. And if only 10% of them are open to it and they take that and then they live 150 years, we're going to change the shape of society with that kind of stuff. We need our village elders back. We used to always have those. And now our older people are largely too tired and just not even respected. And so if you're too tired and your brain doesn't work, of course you can't do your job. And I'm looking to make some changes there. I still find friends who are 20 and 30 years older than me, and I learn from them. And I have friends who are much younger than me, and I learn from them too. And that's in a healthy society, that's how it works. And it's not normal to be segmented only by your age. That's a very recent invention, and it's not healthy for humans.
Yeah, I've had recent contact with 3 of my guests in their late 70s. Guys like Robert Kiyosaki, Jim Rickards, and Dan Pena, who you know because we were both at his castle in Scotland about, 7 years ago. And these guys are in their late 70s. Not only are they crushing it, they're like creating new intellectual property. They've got like big plans. They're almost at the top of their game. And it's like fascinating to see. And you're thinking, wow, if you can keep this up for another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you get some super powerful people and ones that can pass on so much knowledge. Also, at this part of their life, Dave, they're usually giving a lot back or trying to give a lot back. So imagine if that continues and there was more of it. Yeah, the world would be a better place, for sure.
That's a really important piece of advice. I think your listeners in particular would appreciate. And this isn't the stuff that's in my new book or anything, but when I was in my 20s, I was really focused on being an entrepreneur, even my very early 20s. And by the time I was 26, I was quite successful. I did it. But I had this mindset that no one wanted to help and that I had to do it myself. And that if I accepted help, I would be burdened with some kind of responsibility, like I would owe people. And this was just due to my parenting and my upbringing. The reality is that if you let someone help you, you are giving them a gift. Because humans are wired, it feels good in our meat operating system, the automatic parts of us. It feels good to help another human. We're supposed to do that. It feels as good as eating feels. So if you're like, hey, sure, I'd love to have your help. If you do that for someone and you let them help you, they feel good about themselves. You don't owe them anything. You might want to help someone else or help them back. But if I would have been more relaxed that way, I would probably be a billionaire now. Because in the early days of the internet and the web, I'm the first guy to sell anything over the internet. Before e-commerce had a name, I sold a caffeine t-shirt out of my dorm room. And I was written up in Entrepreneur Magazine, full page picture when I weighed 300 pounds, all that kind of stuff. And all I would have had to do was go to Silicon Valley, it was 80 miles from where I lived, and start talking to people. But I just didn't, I had the arrogance, I didn't know how to do it, I didn't want to receive help. One of my contemporaries, Mark Andreessen, who's now a very famous investor, he wrote the first web browser back then. So we're both e-commerce, web browser, and I look at what he did. He was the same age as me. He called up the CEO of a company called Sun Microsystems, a many billion-dollar tech company, and said, hey, what do I do? And Mark's a multi-billionaire. I'm not. Right? It's the willingness and ability to ask for and receive help, especially when you're getting started out. Do that, man. And that's a very smart thing to do. I chose the harder path, which was I'm just going to forge ahead myself. And I was successful, right? I made $6 million when I was 26. I didn't make $60 million when I was 26 because I didn't receive help. Mark did. So there you go.
Yeah, really well said. I was like you, Dave. I never asked for help. And it wasn't until, Pena came on my show and, that I really started getting help from my guests as a side effect for what I was doing. But otherwise, I was terrible at it. And in retrospect, it's helped me so much. And I wish I'd done it earlier. So that's kicking off with a great lesson for anyone watching. You mentioned the MEAT operating system, which is a heavy theme inside your new book. I want to ask you how it opens up, where you tell people to tap the power of laziness. Last thing I expected you to say. What does that mean, Dave?
All right. You've got to understand, there is a system in your body that has kept all life on Earth alive for 2 billion years. And it runs without any visibility from you. And I call it your MEAT operating system. And animals who don't have the ability to think about time, for instance, and all of that, they somehow all stay alive, and they follow some basic rules. And one of the rules is don't waste energy. And the reason for that is there might be a famine. You might not find food. So just be incredibly efficient. And what that means is that this system that sits between you and reality can change what you see. So the first thing I do in the book is I say, all right, let's propose that there's an operating system that's invisible to you, that's doing stuff. What evidence do we have that it's real? And one of the scary things is that if I do this, clap my hands, then you would hear it right away, wouldn't you? Except it doesn't work like that. What happens is that when I put electrodes on your head, and I do run a neuroscience brain upgrade company, so this is personal experience and validated as a standard measure of cognitive function, there's a lag time between a sound or a sight and when your brain gets the first electrical signal that it happened. If you are a normal 50-year-old, 40-year-old, or even 60-year-old, it's about 1/3 of a second. And if you're 18 years old or you have a hacked brain, it's about 1/4 second. So there's some time when your body does stuff to information from the world and then chooses to present it to you or chooses not to present it to you. So you don't see that lag time, do you? 1/3 of a second delay on what I'm saying?
No, not aware.
I don't see it either. So some part of your body is hiding that from you. And in the middle of each eye, there's a dime-sized, I don't know what the European equivalent of a dime is, but whatever, a euro coin-sized blind spot right in the middle of each eye. Some system in our body edits that out of reality, but we know it's there and we can find it. So, okay, what else is that system doing? Well, it's manipulating your behaviors. It's the one that makes you go out on the date you probably know you shouldn't have gone out on, but it sounded like so much fun. It's the one that when you're faced with going to the gym or eating the pizza and sitting on the sofa, you choose the sofa because the sofa looks more attractive than it is. And the gym looks less attractive than it is. So there's a system in there manipulating you by making some things look better than they are. And then we feel shame over that because that is laziness. It is the body saying, please don't use calories, you might starve to death. So what we do is our coaches, our parents, our teachers, our society says, shame on you for being lazy. Dude, newsflash. Your body is lazy, and that has kept our species alive. It is very effective, and there is nothing wrong with feeling lazy. That is a normal and healthy human thing, because laziness also caused us one day, I will say it caused a guy, I'll just start that over. Laziness is important for us because, well, one day there was a guy, and he was hoeing by hand, and he said, I hate this. And he looked at his ox and said, I think I'll make a plow. And then that guy, several generations later, said, you know what? I hate this. Let me make a tractor. So laziness drives human progress. There's nothing wrong with it. And if you feel an innate desire to not exercise, good. Your body is working correctly. So we drop our shame and our guilt about it. And then we say, all right, how do we use this innate drive to save energy? Well, use it to motivate yourself. The laziness principle, it's a new thing in personal development. And it's the fact that our body amplifies certain signals to look more attractive than they are. Saving energy or saving money feels better than spending it. You ever, Brian, had someone in your family go to the shopping mall, the department store, maybe Harrods, and come back with some expensive thing like purse or shoes or something and say, I saved 200 pounds or euros or whatever the heck, wherever the store is. If it's Harrods, it'd be pounds. But you talk about the savings. You don't talk about how much you spent, right? Why did saving feel bigger than it was? Well, that's our operating system. This is why coupons work. So you saved $1. The amount of time it took you to cut out a coupon or use the code and all that was actually worth less than $1. But man, saving money feels good. So if this is a motivator for us, why don't you use that? What I do in the new book, and this is the final cover, Smarter, Not Harder. This is at least the American cover. What I'm doing is I'm saying, look, use that as the carrot to motivate yourself. So when it's time to go to the gym, instead of saying, yeah, I'm going to go work out and sweat and trying to pump yourself up, say, I'm going to do something that works better than lifting rocks and running away from tigers. In fact, it worked 3 times better. I'm going to save 45 minutes at the gym today. And suddenly your resistance from your body to going to the gym melts away. But I was like, oh, I got to save something? I'll go. So you give yourself a coupon for the time you saved at the gym, and it's worth more to you. And then it just doesn't feel bad to go to the gym. And I teach you across 5 domains, here's the stuff that works better than picking up rocks and doing basic cardio. And that's what all exercise is today. We're still exercising like it's the dark ages. And I talk about it for your brain, for meditation, for stress management, for strength, and for cardio. It's not just the gym. It's pick a system you want to upgrade and do it in the way that works most effective. That's why I say I'm lazy. Brian, you know I've built a $100 million company from scratch. I've 5 New York Times bestsellers, assuming this one also makes the list. And the podcast and all this stuff I could talk about. It's because I'm lazy. I only use the most effective tools and I'm willing to work hard. But so many people, because of shame over this laziness, we're told if you work hard, you'll get results. Working hard does not guarantee results even a little bit. What you do is you choose the most effective tool with the most leverage, and then you work hard. So I don't want to work hard. I admit it. I want to work out 1 minute a year and get all the results and be an Olympic level athlete for that. I don't know how to do that yet, but I'll get there, or as close as I can. And same thing. I don't want to age. It might happen a little bit, but I will resist it every step of the way, not by working hard, but by using every tool at my disposal. Nice. And so talk about the gym when you go in there, because like you said in the book, you kind of break down these different types of systems, like a cardio and then brain activity and then metabolism. Like you said, in the gym, it looks like we're lifting rocks and running away from tigers. You know, you always have been on the cutting edge with all sorts of different training techniques. I know you used to have that vibrating plate, and you always used to have these ways that would get yourself trained really efficiently. What do you see as better, more efficient, smarter ways to train or to go to the gym than the ones we have right now? What are some of them? All right. Let me tell you how we got here so I can give you the categories. And then once I have the categories, I can tell you specifically, we'll drill down. 8 years ago, I said, I've got to start a company that's the first biohacking center where you can come in and do all the stuff that works so well. And I opened it underneath Arnold Schwarzenegger's office in Santa Monica, California. And since then, I figured out what technology works and what are people actually looking to achieve and how do we make money on that. As we're speaking, people are opening dozens of locations of Upgrade Labs as a franchise across the United States. This will be my next billion-dollar company, at least in my forward vision, after Bulletproof. So what's going to happen there? Well, you go in and we scan your body electrically to see where you are. Are you inflamed? Are you not inflamed? Where's the fat? Where's the muscle? How's your bone density? We can do a medical grade scan without having to be a medical office. Once we have that data, well, where do you want to go today? Right? Some people want their muscles back. Some people want to lose weight, or they want to get their energy back because they're just tired all the time. Other people are stressed all the time and they want to know, how do I handle stress better? Or I want my brain to work better. Those are different things you can train, or I want my cardio. So for each of those, we have a set of technologies that just works better. It works differently. It's about getting a new kind of signal into the body, which is, instead of work hard, it's get a signal that causes you to transform and improve, and then have space to do it. And for each of those things in Smarter, Not Harder, I say, all right, can we pick a goal? Like, what's your top goal? You only get to have one top goal and you get a second goal. And from those two, we're going to zoom in and find which techniques are going to work for you. And there's things you can do for free at home. There's things that cost a little bit of money, and then there's what the crazy billionaires do. And that's what I put in in Upgrade Labs. So the idea is you don't have to have an AI-driven everything, which is what I'm usually doing. But you can use these principles so that you can, instead of just not exercising because the ROI is bad, and let's face it, 90% of people don't exercise as much as they should. It's not because they're lazy. It's because their bodies are lazy, and it's not because they're dumb. They actually have recognized that you don't get very good results from it. And let's talk about cardio. What do you think? Should we talk about that first?
Yeah, that's a common one.
The working hard mindset on cardio is what I did when I weighed 300 pounds. I said, look, it's ridiculous that I'm this fat. It's my fault. There's guilt, there's shame. So I decided I was going to go to the gym. I went to the gym 90 minutes a day, 6 days a week without fail for 18 months, 702 hours of sweating. I did 45 minutes of cardio and 45 minutes of weight. At the end of that, I did not lose a pound. I could max out all the machines. I'm sure I got some muscle, but I still had the same size pants, and they're 50% bigger than my pants today. So that wasn't a win. In fact, that was doing it the hard way because I believed that working hard would get results. It was a false belief. Let's look at cardio now. A typical person would say, all right, I'm just going to do an hour a day, maybe 45 minutes a day. I'm going to sign up for the spin class. I'm going to get on a bike and someone's going to yell at me in spandex while I ride, and I'm going to improve. And the data supports that. So you spend 5 hours a week plus showers and getting to the place. And, well, you'll improve by 2%. So you will have spent over 2 months. You're looking at, 20 hours, if I'm doing that right? Right? Actually 20 hours a month, 40 hours. So you got 40 hours of exercise, 2% improvement. If you do what I talk about in Smarter Not Harder, you will spend 15 minutes a week and there will be no sweating, but you'll improve by 12%. So like 5 hours versus 15 hours per week, 12% improvement, 2% improvement. This is absolute scientific proof with 3 studies backing it up from the University of Colorado that says working hard for cardio is actually counterproductive. Because if I did, instead of 3 15-minute workouts, if I did 5 of them, I would get worse results, not better. So we're using the power of AI. This is an AI-driven system that I'm using at Upgrade Labs to adjust the intensity on your body for a very short period of time. And I like to talk about cardio as an example because the same principle, that's what the book is really about. It applies to almost everything you do. Our belief system, our veil over reality, is that working hard gets results. But it turns out what gets the best results is very quickly ramping up intensity, changing state rapidly until the body thinks it's going to break, but it doesn't break. And then, this is the big trip. How quickly can you return from that to a baseline state of calmness? And when you do that and you have adequate nutrients, there's only 1 or 2 chapters where I talk about the kind of nutrients you need. When you have adequate nutrients, adequate energy in the form of calories, and an adequate signal, then the body will change, in this case, 6 times faster. And we can talk about why the body does that. It's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, please tell me why. I'm curious, and I also want to hear more about the AI involved, of course, but yeah, why?
Well, you have to imagine your body has its own intelligence. It doesn't even really recognize that the conscious you is in there, and it doesn't like it that you're in there because your body wants to be in charge of itself, and you keep making it do stupid things like say no to the milkshake and go to the gym. And the body is like, why would you turn down calories and why would you spend calories? Don't you know there could be a famine at any time? So there's this unconscious argument between your tissues and your conscious brain. And it gets really interesting because when you decide you're going to run, say, up a hill during a cardio thing, the body says something must be hunting me because why else would the body be doing this? So it starts releasing stress hormones and getting a little bit worried. And normally, if you do that, you'd run away from the tiger, you get away, and then you'd sit in your cave and knit or something, whatever cavemen did, right? So what we do though in a typical cardio class, because we know working hard gets results, is as soon as we get away from the tiger, we run at 50%, and then we run again on another hill, and then we run at 50%, then we run again on another hill. Well, from your body's perspective, that means you're still being hunted. You didn't get away the first time. You didn't get away the second time. You didn't get away the third time. Now it shifts into danger mode. Okay, I'm not going to allocate all these calories, all these protein, all these minerals to building capacity. I'm going to allocate them to defense and to stress and survival. It's that simple. If you do what I'm talking about, where we use AI to rapidly load the system as fast as you can, and you can do this in a park, I tell you how to do it, but you want to deplete everything as fast as you can, like you were going to die. And then you want to quickly, with breathing exercises, very specific ones, return back to baseline. Just do that twice. And you're like, did I even get a workout? I wonder. Yes, you got a workout that works so much better that your energy comes back. So burning yourself out by working hard wasn't good. All I'm telling you is, if instead of spending an hour in a spin class, you spend 5 minutes doing what I'm talking about, well, what are you going to do with the other hour? Maybe you could do one of the other hacks in the book. Maybe you could do the one about gratitude. Maybe you could do the one about forgiveness. Maybe you could actually put some muscle on. Or maybe you should just go for a walk with one of your kids and hold their hand. It's free time. There's no social merit. There is no goodness to working hard unless you are working hard with the best tools.
And you also have a similar mechanism with strength training, right? I think you did some work with Mark Bell, and you had him doing, it sounds like a similar piece where you really tried to stress this with this
Sure.
kind of AI component and get like the most out of him, but do it in a safe manner. Am I getting that right?
You're getting it right. And Mark came up and tried out the technology. And he's a fantastic guy, really kind person. And, what we're doing at Upgrade Labs, whenever we can, there's AI involved because it just helps to customize the signal that goes into your body. So we have AI-driven cardio because it's very efficient on time, and then AI muscle stuff, which puts muscle on 3, maybe 5 times faster than lifting up rocks or concentrated rocks. So Mark is like 100 times stronger than me. He's one of the top 5 power lifters in the world, just a wall of muscle. And he's used to being able to pick up almost anything. So I put him on a computer-controlled, zero gravity. So there's no gravity. There's no weights that you're throwing around system. And he gets on it and he pushes. And he's pushing and going, what the hell? And after 4 or 5 reps, he's completely blown out. He's like, what did you just do to me here? Right? And it was really interesting. And I have so much respect for Mark and all the strength he's built up. When you're fighting against a computer that could literally pick up a truck, what we did for Mark and what we do for people who come into Upgrade Labs is we change the signal going into the muscles. So instead of being I'm fighting gravity to I'm fighting something else. And then the local systems in the body here, like, I don't know what that guy I'm fighting. I better get stronger. So in Smarter, Not Harder, I teach you, okay, here's all the things we know that build muscle better than just fighting iron and gravity. And so that at the high end, there's that kind of a system with AI-driven resistance that doesn't look at all like picking up rocks. There are other things that work also faster than just lifting. And I'm not opposed to lifting. I'm just saying if you only have 5 minutes, what should you do? Another one is resistance bands. You've probably seen people using systems like TRX or other things like that. In big rubber bands, they actually look kind of dumb. But the reason they work is your muscles are expecting gravity and they get something else, which is a stretchy thing, and they have to adapt. And so you do something like that and you rapidly exhaust with a different signal than you're used to. And the body says, God, I'm going to have to adapt to this new signal. Okay, as long as you have the protein and the minerals, your body will do it. And this means you just get more results, less time. And it's funny, I don't use the word optimal on a regular basis because this isn't about being optimal. This is just better. Like you don't have to give anything up in order to get more muscle in less time. You just got a gain. It turns out you were wasting stuff beforehand. And now you can take what was waste and you can put it into something you care about. So there wasn't a trade-off here. There was just an improvement.
Wow. You mentioned getting the right raw materials. I'm going to have to ask you, what are those things or what aren't those things? I'm guessing we're talking about diet and supplements?
In terms of the nutrients to get it in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do talk about protein in the book. There's been such a concerted marketing effort from the big food industry to convince us that peasant survival foods are health foods, that it's starting to harm people. Proteins are not all the same. calories are not all the same. And the old game was if all calories are equivalent, so you can have bad oils like canola oil, and you can have corn syrup, and they're just the same as an egg because a calorie is a calorie. That's just not how it works. And many people have finally realized that you just don't eat that kind of food because it's bad for you. It doesn't matter the calories. The next evolution is protein. Oh, it's high protein. No, gluten is a protein. So there is a company making paleo cookies made out of extra gluten. And then people eat them and wonder why it doesn't work. It's because plant proteins all do different things as animal proteins. So if you're going to get results in life, any kind of signal you put into the body that causes change requires protein, may require some fat, and always requires minerals. And carbs can help, but carbs are for energy more than building blocks. So if you eat plant-based proteins, they come packaged with anti-protein enzymes, so you cannot absorb them. And they always come with things like arsenic or inflammatory proteins that you don't want. That's why I just talk about the fact that meat and dairy, if you tolerate it, are superior proteins. They actually work better. And if you're under this false assumption that when you eat a plant-based protein, you're somehow not killing animals, or you're somehow helping the environment, or somehow helping your health, those are marketing messages from people who do not care about your health. So I felt obligated to point that out as a former vegan and a former raw vegan who really, really went down that path and got sick from it, like millions of other people who tried. I mean, it's a big problem in society. That's not the point of the book. It's one chapter saying if you're low on protein, or you're eating plant protein and not getting results, you need to know this. But the big thing is that plants, they come packaged with these anti-nutrients that steal minerals from your body. For our bodies to make things like to fold proteins, to make ATP for energy, we use small amounts of trace minerals, and we use those to make enzymes. If you don't have something like boron or magnesium, which is a larger mineral, or manganese, some things just won't happen. I don't care how hard you work, how hard you try. Your body can't do it because it didn't have that one key ingredient. When you eat plants, especially a very high plant diet, especially nuts and seeds, and maybe worst of all is oatmeal, when you do that, that sucks minerals out of your body and it doesn't put any in there. So what you do is you create deficiency over time, and it's one of the causes of aging. It's one of the causes of osteoporosis. When you do what I talk about in terms of supplementation for minerals, it's going to take 3 capsules of a multi-mineral formula. And when you get that, your body has enough of the macrominerals. And then there's about 50 trace minerals and ultra trace minerals. And I put those in Danger Coffee. This is my new coffee brand. And it's called Danger Coffee because who knows what you might do. You'll be at full power. So that's where I get my trace minerals. And you can go to vitamindake, DAKE.com, which is where I put the multi-mineral formula that I created. I'll just tell you, if you're in Europe, wherever you are, 3 capsules from any reputable brand of a multi-mineral formula can change your life. You need to do that. And then you need to take fat-soluble vitamins, DAKE. That's why it's vitamindake.com. And if you get those, which come from animals, not from plants, except for vitamin E, those allow minerals to go into your cells and stay where they're supposed to be. So these are not sexy supplements. They're not the nootropics. They're not modafinil. They're not the stuff that you and I have talked about, the stuff I've created. It's just that if you're going to spend $20 a month on supplements, this is where you spend first, because these are the most foundational. You wouldn't want to build a house on sand. And that's what we're doing these days, because if you don't have those minerals to make your tissues, working out is kind of a waste of time.
The last time you were here, Dave, I think you and I had a steak at the Hoxton Hotel. And I remember you brought some MCT oil with you, and you brought some salt with you, I think. And you were having the steak. And I think I asked you about salt. You're like, no, salt is good. You want salt and you want MCT oil. And it's funny, Dave, I just looked in my drawer in my office and I've got a bottle of MCT oil and a thing of Himalayan salt. And it's
no way.
Yeah, it's because of what you said that day. And you were like, no, this is good for you. And now I really incorporate that into my meals, including now animal proteins. I went a year of vegan as well on a challenge, and I did an Ironman on one, etc.
Remember, I was worried about you actually.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I think the initial time when you change is a getting to know period, and my body did okay. But at the end of the year, I just really asked myself, am I doing this because of my own dogged determination? And I've done these things before where, you know, stayed an alcoholic or stayed a drug user for too long. And I thought, am I doing this just to be dogmatic? And then I had a little meat and a little sushi, and it just felt right. And I'm so kind of glad that I did. But yeah, those are my memories of you, of having that grass-fed steak. And, you know, I appreciate you being outspoken about that, because it can be a hard thing to do, especially with the craze, you know?
Vegans get really mad at me, and here's what happens. I have a lot of compassion, even though sometimes people think I don't because I use humor sometimes. But what happens when you go vegan is for about 6 weeks, maybe up to 3 months, you get the glow.
Yeah.
And you're a little bit frenetic, but you have all this energy. What happened is you stopped eating saturated fats that help your cell membranes. So the body says, my energy efficiency just went down. Let me make more thyroid hormone. So your efficiency drops, your thermostat gets turned up, and you're like, yeah, I feel so good. I'm sure this works because look how good I felt. And now you're convinced. You're like kind of on the crack. And then after that 6 weeks or so period, like, oh man, maybe my joints are starting to hurt a little bit. Or usually the first thing that happens is your sleep quality goes down. And suddenly you wake up like, I don't think I slept that well. And maybe if you're tracking your sleep now, you realize, oh, my heart rate variability dropped. That's weird. But you keep doing it because you already know it works. So you go even more vegan. Like, oh, maybe I won't eat that honey because a bee touched it. You're not going to think about the fact that the almond was also pollinated by a bee that was forced in a box to do that. So I guess you shouldn't think too hard about what's animal-based or what's not. But we can talk about that later. But you're on it. And then you wake up one morning and there's no kickstand, or your monthly cycle doesn't work very well. But you keep pushing, and then you start getting thinning hair, or if you're like me, you get that. And then you start cracking teeth because those health foods are sucking minerals out of your body. Plants don't want us to eat them. If you are going to eat plants, which I highly recommend, you choose the ones that don't deplete your minerals, the ones that are not high inflammation. We're fortunate that we can eat some plants to survive when there's no other energy. It doesn't mean they're all good for us.
Yeah, it's an interesting piece. Do you think the excitement about, you know, plant-based meat product supplements is waning, or is it still going up? I mean, you're in the States, I'm not. I mean,
it's fantastic. I'm here in Texas now, in Austin, and when there are ice storms or things like that, and people do a run on the supermarket to get all the food to stock up, there are lots of photos of the entire store stripped bare except for the meat replacement thing. People just leave it there. People would rather starve than eat it. People recognize it for what it is. It is a ultra processed, chemically enhanced product. And what it is it's an attempt to sell you the lowest quality peasant food and make you pay the most for it. And I have calculated deaths per calorie. I learned this from a lama, like the head of a monastery in Tibet, where we had this great conversation in 2004 when I was traveling around Asia doing meditation training and things like that. And this guy had a yak skin on his prayer pole. And I said, I thought you said no killing. And he just laughs. He says, one death feeds everyone. And I'll tell you to this day, Brian, I don't really eat chicken. I don't think chicken's a great protein for you, but you have to kill a whole chicken to eat it. When I eat a pound of steak every day, it's one animal, maybe half an animal a year. And if it's grass-fed steak, that animal didn't cause any environmental destruction. But if you were to go eat one of these fake things, they sterilized acres of land with chemicals. And then they went through.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.